And energetically, most people are decapitated. They have no head of their own because they have a superego, a collection of ideal utopias, norms, orders, threatening punishments. And that has to go because you already have an ego. You don't need a superego. The superego is the internalized ruler. And it's like a black data helmet over your head. And the previous generation usually passes on its black data helmet to you. And again, I was lucky, in quotation marks, because it was so absurd at home that I couldn't do it. A grandma born around 1890, who really still beat like that and everything. A father, born in 22, with his, let's say, somewhat bad time, and her standard. Yes, there was my mother, born in 36, who was actually just a copy of my grandmother, only a bit younger. You'll probably parry and all that. So those were the phrases, bending over backwards. And my mother was just, a child has duties. That's it. I can only say that and goodbye. And then, of course, I have to look at what are really sustainable values. So there wasn't really anything to adopt. And then I had to reinvent the wheel for myself. And that's why I don't have to defend something that was bad and just say, they were also completely disoriented and only ever copied the previous generation without looking to see that the environmental conditions might have changed. So the sentences of a superego person who is with my mother, that was common in my generation. That means she doesn't feel. She doesn't see for herself. She's not in a relationship at all. You might as well use a care robot. That's why it was so bad. Zero self-responsibility, zero self-control. And of course, mysticism gets people out of this zombie state. And that's actually, it's always meant quite harmlessly. It's a basic conservatism that chases after the masses. According to the motto, then I won't do anything wrong. No, then you'll do everything wrong. And the best word, so to speak, against this being good, if you want to know where your values are taking you, look at others. At an older age, what do those who have the same values look like? Then I used to think, oh God, I'm obsessive, I'm anxious, I'm fundamentally conservative. I don't want to look like that, but I already look like that. So in my mysticism, death of the ego means dying to cultural dressage and really perceiving yourself, taking responsibility in the here and now. And it can certainly be a mixture of conservative values, high educational values, but also decisions of the heart. I'm not against anything from the outset, but a person who no longer has a mind of their own is dangerous. What did they used to call cruise missiles? Let's leave it alone.
Thank you, Sabine. I think I'm...
But you see, by sticking to the topic, you will be creating culture, namely a culture that is fed by the living river. That's not so much speech about the purely spontaneous. But all these norm monkeys, they are always in literature, like the Grand Inquisitor or the Pharisees with Jesus. They act like automatons. They are programmed once, and that's why they don't recognize that Jesus is standing in front of them and the Messiah they have been waiting for. No, according to our program, they don't fulfill the following agenda items. Then you can say, hello robot, they see, but they don't see. They hear, but they don't hear. Those are always phrases to people, so we see that Jesus was not a Pharisee hater, but that is the Pharisee in us, in the truest sense. If we only act in order to have a clean slate at the end and to be praised, that is the best way to hell. One might suspect malice. It's not. But the person in captivity just doesn't develop and has internalized the values and norms of the warden as if he had Stockholm syndrome. That's a bad thing to say. But the overreaching is the swallowed stick. These are people who say you can't fly anymore. I haven't flown once in the last 5 years, not 10 years, because I have a phobia of flying. Now I've overcome it, and I don't care about the rest. Yes, well, you can't, and you shouldn't. One is the policeman, the other. And of course you really don't want to get old there. And they don't know what free will is. They've never learned it, and they've never seen it in their parents, because they only ever lead a life that pleases others. So you are subject to other people's assessments and your own assessment, your own feelings are nothing.